Hey guys, I'm Kevin with Victory 4x4. In this video, we're going to be installing a gas tank skid on our 4th generation Tacoma. So here in front of me, I have the tank skid, its mounting brackets, and all the hardware. We're going to go over which brackets go where real quick out here on the cart, and then show you where to install them up on the truck. They're just a little bit easier to see out here. The first one, and really the easiest one to identify, is the driver's side front mounting bracket. This one is the only one that's going to have 2 mounting slots here on the bottom where it bolts to the tank skid on the inside of this mounting flange. Again, we are going to hang this up on the truck before we put the skid in place, but that'll help you know where it's going to go. You'll then have 2 mounting brackets for the back end of the rear tank skid section. The passenger side bracket is going to be the one you see here. It'll install just like this with the slotted hole up here toward the top running forward toward the front of the vehicle. And then the driver's side will mount in here just like this. This one does have 2 different length slots. The longer slot will mount down here on the bottom of the skid, and then you can just kind of remind yourself that both of these slots are going to run in a line with one another right here from side to side. We can then move under the truck and work towards getting the front skid section in place. We first need to remove this bracket here at the front end of the tank. For that, you just need a 12 mil socket to remove these 2 hex head bolts. Now we do provide you a slightly longer flanged hex head bolt to go back in these threaded holes when you're lifting your tank skid into position, so keep that in mind and have those at the ready. You can then grab that driver's side front mounting bracket and move in here toward the center of the vehicle. You'll need to grab a 14 millimeter socket and remove the bolt up here for this factory drive shaft loop. Let me make sure it fits real quick. Yeah. Now they give you plenty of length on this bolt, so we're just going to reuse that. You'll then slide your bracket up in above the drive shaft loop, kind of between it and the frame, and get this reinstalled, leaving it just a little bit loose for compliance for now. To give yourself just a little bit of clearance when this front section is going into place, you may need to kind of modify these heat shields just a little bit, essentially folding in these lower flanges just to make some clearance for the skid itself. So you can go ahead and do that now, or you can work on that while you're lifting it into place, entirely up to you. At that point, we can grab the front section of the skid and lift it into position here. Now you can kind of get a look at your heat shields and see if you need to make any more modification to those, and then you can start installing hardware. So here you've got 1/2-inch button head bolts with serrated flange nuts to mount this inside bracket to the skid. We are just tightening these by hand right now, kind of leaving them a little bit loose so that we have that adjustability as we get the remainder of the skid installed. But when the time comes, you'll need a 5/16 hex to tighten these up. You can then real quick install those M8 flanged hex heads out here on the frame rail. Once again, leaving them a little loose. To get the passenger side rear bracket installed, you want to support the tank in some way. So I just have our transmission jack in here, and then you can loosen the bolt for this rear fuel tank mounting strap with a 14 mil socket. With that loose, you may have to hold up on the tank strap and then slide this outside mounting bracket in using that slotted hole. And then we will just kind of lightly snug this one up for now to hold it in place. Just keeping in mind that we may have to make some adjustments to this later on. And lastly, we can install the driver's side rear mounting bracket. Again, making sure you're working with the shorter end of the slot here, which is going to go up toward the frame. You'll find the long 1/2-inch bolt in your bolt pack. You have a 1/2-inch washer to install on that. And we're just going to kind of slide this whole assembly up into place where it'll mount through a cross member up there, and on top you'll install a serrated flange nut. The hole you're looking for on this cross member is the horizontally kind of slightly slotted hole here just behind the rear tank mounting bracket. So you can lift this into position and push that bolt all the way through the cross member, and once again reach over top and install that nut. We can then lift the rear skid section into position, making it overlap with the mounting flange on that front section and lining up our holes here. In these hole locations, you're going to be installing the two black 3/8 button heads with serrated flange nuts on the back side, so you can reach through the window here to install the nuts, or potentially around the outside of the mounting flange on the skid over here. Then at the back of the skid, you have two more of those 1/2-inch button heads to install, one for each mounting bracket. We can then come out here and install the two M8 hex heads into the frame, keeping in mind that we do provide washers for these as well for a little extra engagement here. At this point, you have all your hardware loosely started and your tank skid kind of hanging loosely in place. I think the only tool we haven't mentioned at this point is a 7/32 hex for the 3/8 button heads that tie the two halves together. And then we can work our way around, just double checking clearances as we tighten things up, making sure none of our brackets are running hard into the tank or the frame or anything that looks out of place there. Now additionally, you will need a 3/4 inch socket or wrench for that 1/2-inch bolt toward the rear. And once you get everything tightened up, this installation is complete. Now, if you have any questions about this installation or anything else we offer here at Victory 4x4, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can always send us an email at info@victory4x4.com or call us at 269-459-8447.